I grabbed my keys and ran. My phone had been buzzing nonstop during my shift, but as a nurse in the middle of a surgery, I couldn't check it. When I finally looked at the screen in the scrub room, my blood turned to ice. 15 missed calls from Seattle-Tacoma International Airport security. 27 messages in the family group chat. The last one, sent just 8 minutes ago, made my hands shake so badly I almost dropped my phone. "Come get her. We're boarding now." That was from my mother. My father added, "Don't make us feel guilty. She needs to learn she can't manipulate people with tears." They'd left Sophie, my 7-year-old daughter, alone, at the airport. I didn't reply, I just ran. But let me back up, because you need to understand how we got here. How a family could abandon a child and feel justified doing it. My name is Sarah. I'm 32 years old, a registered nurse at Seattle General, and a single mother. I've been raising Sophie on my own for the past 4 years, ever since my divorce from her father. He was toxic, controlling, and when I finally got the courage to leave him, my family didn't support me. My mother said I was giving up too easily. My father said divorce was shameful. Only my older sister Jennifer seemed sympathetic, but looking back now, I think she was just glad it wasn't her. Jennifer is the golden child. She always has been. Perfect marriage to her high school sweetheart. Perfect house in the suburbs. Perfect daughter named Emma, who's now 9 years old. Everything Jennifer touches turns to gold, and my parents worship the ground she walks on. Me? I'm the screw-up. The one who got divorced. The one who works too much. The one whose daughter is difficult. Sophie isn't difficult. She's sensitive, creative, and loving. She has asthma, which means she needs her inhaler and careful attention to her triggers. She loves animals, spends hours drawing elaborate pictures of cats and dogs, and has the kindest heart of any child I've ever known. But to my parents, she's a burden. She's not as outgoing as Emma. She's quieter. She cries when her feelings are hurt. And worst of all, she exists as a constant reminder that their daughter's marriage failed. The favoritism started when Sophie was a baby. Christmas morning when she was 2 and Emma was 4. Emma got a pink bicycle with streamers and a bell. Sophie got a pack of socks. "Well, she's too young for a bike," my mother said when I pointed out the disparity. The next year, Emma got a dollhouse. Sophie got a coloring book. Birthday parties were even worse. Emma's birthdays were catered events with bounce houses, petting zoos, and dozens of guests. When Sophie turned 5, I asked if we could have her party at my parents' house like we'd done for Emma. "We're a bit tight on money this year," my father said. I saw the credit card bill on the counter the next week. They'd just spent $3,000 on a cruise. The photos on my parents' living room wall tell the story better than I ever could. 37 pictures of Emma, 3 of Sophie. I counted once, when I was feeling particularly masochistic. Despite all this, I kept trying. I kept hoping that if I just worked hard enough, sacrificed enough, my parents would love Sophie the way they loved Emma. I was an idiot. Which brings me to the Alaska cruise. 3 months ago, my mother announced that she and my father were celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary with a week-long cruise to Alaska. "Jennifer and Emma are coming," she said. "You're welcome to join us, but we know you can't get the time off work." She was right. I just started a new position as a charge nurse, and I couldn't take a week off during my probationary period. But Sophie could go. Sophie had been talking about seeing glaciers and whales ever since her teacher did a unit on Alaska in school. She'd drawn picture after picture of herself on a boat, surrounded by orcas. "What about Sophie?" I asked. "She could go with you. It would mean the world to her." My mother's face did this thing. This tightening around the mouth that I've learned means she's about to say something cruel, but wants to pretend she's being reasonable. "Sarah, honey, we really want this to be a relaxing trip. You know how Sophie can be." "How can she be?" I kept my voice level, but I was gripping the phone so hard my knuckles were white. "Well, she's high maintenance, isn't she? With the asthma and the crying and the neediness. Emma's so independent, but Sophie requires so much attention. She's 7 years old, Mom. 7. And her asthma is well controlled with her medication. She's not high maintenance, she's a child." There was a long pause. Then my mother sighed. That martyred sigh that meant she was about to do me a huge favor that I'd better appreciate. "Fine. Sophie can come. But Sarah, you need to pay for her cabin. Your father and I are paying for Jennifer and Emma, but we're already stretched thin with the anniversary trip expenses." I should have said no right then. I should have recognized the inequality, the unfairness of it all. But I wanted Sophie to have this. I wanted her to have one memory of her grandparents treating her like she mattered. So I paid. $4,500 for a cabin on the ship. It was 2 months of my salary. I'd been saving for a new car since mine was barely running, but I took the money out of that account and paid for Sophie's cruise. The week before the trip, I bought Sophie everything she needed. New clothes, a swimsuit, sunscreen, her favorite snacks. I packed her bag myself, tucking in her inhaler, her emergency backup inhaler, and the instruction sheet for what to do if she had an asthma attack. I laminated that sheet. I wanted to make sure nothing went wrong. The night before they left, Sophie couldn't sleep. She came into my room at midnight, clutching her stuffed elephant. "Mama, do you think Grandma will hug me on the trip?" My heart broke a little. "Of course she will, baby. She hugs Emma a lot. But she doesn't hug me very much." Sophie's voice was so small. "Do you think it's because I cry too much?" I pulled her into bed with me. "Sophie, listen to me. You are perfect exactly as you are. Your feelings are valid. Crying doesn't make you weak or bad. It makes you human. Emma doesn't cry. Emma has her own way of handling things. You have yours. Neither is wrong." Sophie was quiet for a moment. "Then, I'll try to be really good on the trip. I'll be brave like Emma. Maybe then Grandma and Grandpa will love me more." I couldn't speak. I just held her and tried not to let her hear me crying. The morning of June 15th, I dropped Sophie off at my parents' house at 7 a.m. before my shift started. The flight was at 6 p.m., so they'd pick her up from there and head to the airport around 3. Sophie was wearing her favorite purple dress and had her backpack decorated with animal stickers. She hugged me so tight. "I love you, Mama." "I love you too, baby. So much. Have the best time, okay? Take pictures for me." My mother barely looked at me when she opened the door. "We'll see you in a week." I didn't hear from them all day. That should have been my first warning. I was scheduled for a 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. shift, but we were short-staffed, and I ended up staying late to help with an emergency surgery. It was a complicated procedure, and I had my phone on silent in my locker. By the time I scrubbed out at 4:30 p.m., my phone was exploding. The first call was from 4:15 p.m., then 4:17, 4:20, 4:23, all from an unknown Seattle number. I called it back immediately. It went to voicemail for the airport security office. Then I opened the family group chat, and my world imploded. Linda, my mother, at 4:15 p.m. "Sophie is being difficult. She won't stop crying." Robert, my father, at 4:20 p.m. "She's embarrassing us at the gate. People are staring." Jennifer at 4:25 p.m. "Honestly, Sarah, we can't deal with this. We've tried everything." Linda at 4:30 p.m. "We're boarding, come get her." Robert at 4:31 p.m. "Don't make us feel guilty. She needs to learn she can't manipulate people with tears." I tried calling my mother. Blocked. My father. Blocked. Jennifer. Blocked. I ran to my car and drove like a woman possessed. Seattle-Tacoma International Airport is normally a 45-minute drive from the hospital. I made it in 32, running red lights and praying I wouldn't get pulled over. I called the airport security number 16 times. No one answered. I abandoned my car in a no-parking zone and sprinted into the terminal, the Alaska Airlines departure gates. I ran, my sneakers squeaking on the polished floor, my scrubs still on, my hair falling out of its ponytail. Gate N7. The flight had left at 6 p.m. It was now 5:53 p.m. There were still a few stragglers at the gate, but most people were gone. "Sophie!" I screamed. "Sophie!" An airport security officer approached me. He was maybe 50, Latino, with kind eyes and a name tag that read Martinez. "Ma'am, are you Sarah Hayes? Where is she? Where's my daughter?" "She's safe. She's in the security office. Come with me." I followed him down a corridor, through a door marked Authorized Personnel Only, into a small office with fluorescent lights and the smell of burnt coffee. And there she was. Sophie. Sitting on a plastic chair that was too big for her, her purple dress wrinkled, her face tear-stained, clutching her elephant. When she saw me, she let out a sob and ran into my arms. "Mama, I tried to be good. I tried so hard." I sank to my knees and held her. She was shaking. I could feel her little heart racing against my chest. "I know, baby, I know. You didn't do anything wrong. Nothing at all." Officer Martinez cleared his throat. "Miss Hayes, I need to talk to you." I didn't let go of Sophie. "What happened?" "We found your daughter at gate N7 at approximately 5:45 p.m. She was alone, crying, carrying a backpack. When we approached her, she said her grandparents and aunt had left her. She said they told her she was being a baby, and that someone would come get her eventually. His voice was carefully neutral, but I could hear the anger underneath. She'd been there for over an hour. An hour? I looked down at Sophie. Baby, what happened? Sophie's voice was so small. We got to the airport and Emma wanted Starbucks, so we went to get drinks. Then we walked to the gate and I was scared, Mama. I've never been on a plane without you, and I started crying. I couldn't help it. That's okay. That's completely okay. But Grandma said I was being dramatic. She said I was embarrassing them, and Emma said I was acting like a baby. And Grandpa said, she hiccuped. He said I needed to learn that the world doesn't revolve around me and my feelings. I closed my eyes. I could picture it so clearly. My 7-year-old daughter, scared and crying, being berated by the people who were supposed to love and protect her. They said I had to stop crying or I couldn't come. So I tried. I really tried, Mama, but I couldn't stop. And then Grandma said she was done dealing with me, she said. She said she was going to text you and that you'd come get me. And then they all got in line to board. Did anyone else try to help you? Sophie shook her head. I sat in a chair and waited. A lady asked if I was okay, but I was scared to talk to strangers like you taught me. Then the policeman found me. Officer Martinez was writing everything down. Miss Hayes, I need to be clear about something. What your family did is a crime. They abandoned a minor child in a public place. That's child endangerment. We have to file a police report. Good, I said. File it. Press every charge you can. He looked surprised. You understand that this will likely result in criminal charges against your family members? I understand that they left my 7-year-old daughter alone in an airport for over an hour. I understand that she has asthma, and they left without making sure she had her medication. I looked down at Sophie's backpack. Baby, do you have your inhaler? She shook her head. It's in the suitcase. Grandma said I didn't need it in my backpack because she had it. Cold rage flooded through me. They left her without her emergency medication. She could have had an asthma attack. She could have died. Officer Martinez's face hardened. I'll make sure that's in the report. We spent the next 2 hours at the airport. Police came. I gave a statement. Sophie gave a statement, sitting in my lap the whole time, her voice barely above a whisper. They showed me security footage of my family at the gate. There was my mother, checking her phone with an annoyed expression. My father, standing with his arms crossed. Jennifer, holding Emma's hand. And Sophie, sitting alone 20 feet away, crying. The footage showed my mother walking over to Sophie, leaning down, saying something. Sophie crying harder. My mother throwing up her hands and walking away. All 3 adults getting in the boarding line. None of them looking back. The flight attendants had apparently asked if Sophie was flying alone. My mother had said, her mother's coming. Then they'd boarded and left. By the time we left the airport, it was almost 9 p.m. Sophie fell asleep in the car on the way home. I carried her inside, changed her into pajamas, and tucked her into bed. She didn't wake up. Exhaustion and stress had knocked her out completely. I went into my room and finally let myself fall apart. I cried harder than I had in years. Not just for what had happened that day, but for every slight, every cruelty, every moment of favoritism that Sophie had endured. For the Christmas presents that weren't equal. For the birthday parties that were canceled. For the photos that weren't taken. For the hugs that weren't given. My phone buzzed. The family group chat. They must have landed in Juneau. I opened it. Jennifer. Mom and Dad feel terrible. But honestly, Sarah, maybe Sophie learned something today. She can't always get her way by crying. I stared at that message for a full minute, then I checked. They were still all blocking my calls, but they could message in the group chat. I typed one sentence. Stay away from my daughter, all of you. Then I blocked them. Every single one. My mother, my father, my sister. I blocked their numbers, their social media accounts, everything. My phone buzzed again. An unknown number. A text from my mother's friend's phone. How dare you be so dramatic? They made a mistake. Family forgives. I blocked that number too. Sophie didn't sleep well that night. She woke up screaming at 2 a.m., crying about being left behind. I held her and rocked her like she was a baby again. Am I a bad girl, Mama? No, baby. You're the best girl. The best daughter anyone could ask for. Then why don't they love me? I didn't have an answer for that. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that some people are incapable of unconditional love? That some people only value what serves them? The next few days were hell. Sophie wouldn't let me out of her sight. She had nightmares every night. She wet the bed twice, something she hadn't done in years. She became clingy and anxious, afraid I would leave her too. I called her pediatrician and got a referral for a child therapist. Dr. Williams had availability the following week, and I took Sophie in on a Thursday afternoon. Sophie sat in a chair covered with cheerful fabric and wouldn't make eye contact with Dr. Williams at first. But slowly, with the help of some art supplies, she started to talk. I thought maybe they'd love me if I was good enough, Sophie said, drawing a picture of herself crying at the airport. But I couldn't be good enough. Dr. Williams was a woman in her 50s with warm brown eyes and a gentle voice. Sophie, can I tell you something? You didn't do anything wrong. You were good enough. You are good enough. What happened wasn't your fault. But I cried. Crying is okay. Crying is how we express our feelings. Adults cry too. Sophie looked up at her. Grandma said crying is manipulative. Grandma was wrong. After the session, Dr. Williams pulled me aside. Sarah, I need to be clear with you. What your daughter experienced is trauma. Abandonment by trusted family figures, especially at such a young age, can have serious long-term effects. She's going to need ongoing therapy. She may struggle with trust, with anxiety, with feeling unworthy. This isn't something that will just go away. I know. My voice cracked. I know. I'll do whatever it takes. There's something else. Dr. Williams hesitated. I'm mandated to report this to Child Protective Services. Not because of you. Because of what your family did. They'll want to investigate. Okay. You're not upset? Doctor, my family left my daughter alone in an airport. They traumatized her. They need to face consequences. 3 days later, a detective called me. His name was Detective Harrison, and he was handling the case. Miss Hayes, the district attorney's office has reviewed the evidence. We're moving forward with criminal charges against Linda Hayes, Robert Hayes, and Jennifer Mitchell for child endangerment. Good. I need you to understand something. This isn't your decision anymore. Even if you wanted to drop charges, we'd proceed. The state of Washington takes child endangerment seriously. I don't want to drop charges. Understood. There will be a court date. You and Sophie will need to testify. We'll be there. That afternoon, my phone exploded. Voicemails from unknown numbers. My mother's voice. How dare you do this to us? We're your parents. After everything we've done for you, my father, you're destroying this family, Sarah. Over a misunderstanding. You always were vindictive. Jennifer, Emma is traumatized by what you're putting us through. My daughter is crying because you're trying to send her grandparents to jail. How can you be so cruel? I saved every voicemail, forwarded them to Detective Harrison. The next day, I went to the courthouse and filed for restraining orders against all 3 of them. The judge, a woman in her 60s, reviewed the evidence and granted them immediately. 500 feet. They couldn't contact me or Sophie. Couldn't come to our house, my workplace, Sophie's school. Miss Hayes, the judge said, I have grandchildren. What your family did is unconscionable. These orders will remain in effect for 5 years, at which point you can request an extension. Thank you, Your Honor. Extended family started reaching out. My aunt, my uncle, my cousins, all taking my parents' side. It was just a misunderstanding. Family should forgive. You're being too harsh. I blocked them all. The only person who reached out with genuine concern was my father's younger brother, Uncle David. He called from a number I didn't have saved, so I answered. Sarah, I just heard what happened. I'm so sorry. Thanks, Uncle David. For what it's worth, I believe you. I've seen how they treat Sophie compared to Emma. It's not right. It never has been. I started crying. Why didn't you say anything? I should have. I'm sorry, I was a coward. But I want you to know, if you need anything, I'm here. And I'd love to take Sophie for ice cream sometime, if that's okay. Just her and me. No one else. She'd like that. Uncle David became Sophie's ally. He visited once a week, bringing coloring books and telling her jokes. He was the only family member I allowed near her. The trial was set for August 19th, 2 months after the abandonment. During those 2 months, my family hired an expensive lawyer. I found out from Detective Harrison. They're going with the defense that it was a misunderstanding, that they thought you were already at the airport. They're painting Sophie as a difficult child who they couldn't control. I have $4,500 in bank records showing I paid for her trip. I have the text messages. I have airport security footage. I know, the DA is confident. But I wanted to prepare you. They're going to try to make Sophie look bad. She's 7 years old. I know, It's disgusting, but it's their strategy. I hired a lawyer too. His name was David Chen, and he specialized in child advocacy cases. He took my case pro bono after I explained the situation. Miss Hayes, he said at our first meeting, I want to be very clear. Your family's attorney is going to try to paint you as vindictive and Sophie as manipulative. They're going to bring up your divorce, your work schedule, anything they can to suggest you're an unfit mother who's using this situation for revenge. But the evidence is on our side. But family law cases are messy, and emotions run high. I need you to be prepared for your parents to say terrible things about you in court. I can handle it. Can Sophie? That stopped me. She has to testify? The prosecution will want her to. She's the victim. Her testimony is powerful. I thought about Sophie. Still having nightmares. Still asking if she was a bad girl. Will they be in the courtroom? Yes, unless we request they be removed, which we can do for her testimony. Do that. She doesn't need to see them. August 19th arrived like a storm on the horizon. I dressed Sophie in a simple blue dress. I wore my best suit. David Chen met us at the courthouse. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. The judge, Honorable Margaret Thompson, was a severe-looking woman in her 60s. The prosecutor was a sharp-eyed man named James Park, and sitting at the defense table were my parents and Jennifer, all dressed like they were going to church, looking respectable and hurt and bewildered. My mother saw me and started crying. Actual tears. It was a performance. I'd seen her deploy those tears my entire life. The trial took 6 hours. The prosecution went first. They showed the text messages. They played Officer Martinez's testimony on video. They showed the security footage. In that footage, you could see Sophie crying, alone, small and scared. You could see my mother's annoyed expression. The jury was riveted. Then they called me to the stand. The prosecutor was gentle. Miss Hayes, can you tell us about your relationship with your parents? I told them everything. The favoritism. The birthday parties. The photos on the wall. The $4,500 I paid for a trip they then prevented Sophie from taking. And when you got the messages, what did you think? I thought my daughter was in danger. I thought about every predator, every person who could hurt her. She was alone in one of the busiest airports in the country. She has asthma. She didn't have her medication. I was terrified. The defense attorney cross-examined me. He was in his 50s, with slicked-back hair and an expensive suit. Miss Hayes, isn't it true that you have a contentious relationship with your family? I have a complicated relationship with my parents, yes. And isn't it true that you've always been jealous of your sister Jennifer? No. Isn't it true that you're using this situation to punish your family for perceived slights? No. I'm protecting my daughter from people who abandoned her. Your daughter is a sensitive child, isn't she? Prone to crying? She's 7 years old. She has normal emotional responses for her age. But she cries frequently, doesn't she? More than other children? David Chen objected. Relevance, Your Honor. Sustained. Then they called Sophie to testify. My parents and Jennifer were removed from the courtroom. Sophie sat in the witness box, her feet not even touching the floor, her hands twisting together in her lap. The prosecutor spoke gently. Sophie, can you tell us what happened on June 15th? In a small, clear voice, Sophie told her story. How excited she'd been. How she'd started crying at the gate because she was scared. How her grandmother had called her dramatic and her grandfather had said she was embarrassing them. How they'd left her there. Sophie, did anyone try to help you? A lady asked if I was okay, but Mama always taught me not to talk to strangers. So I just waited. I thought maybe Grandma was testing me. Maybe if I was brave and didn't cry, she'd come back and we could go on the trip together. But she didn't come back? No. The policeman found me. The defense attorney declined to cross-examine Sophie. Even he wasn't cruel enough to interrogate a 7-year-old child. Then the defense presented their case. My mother took the stand first, still crying. We didn't mean to leave her, she sobbed. It was all a misunderstanding. We thought Sarah was on her way. We thought Sophie would be okay for a few minutes. The prosecutor destroyed her on cross-examination. Mrs. Hayes, you sent a text message saying, "Come get her. We're boarding now." Does that sound like you thought Miss Hayes was already there? I meant, you also blocked Miss Hayes's phone number immediately after boarding the plane, didn't you? I was upset. Sophie had been so difficult. She's 7 years old. She was crying and making a scene. So you left her, alone, in an airport, without her medication, for over an hour. My mother had no answer for that. My father took the stand next. He was stoic, military straight in his posture. We made an error in judgment. But Sophie needed to learn that she can't always have her way. She manipulates through tears. Mr. Hayes, your granddaughter is 7 years old. Do you genuinely believe a 7-year-old is capable of that level of manipulation? Some children are more manipulative than others. Did you at any point consider your granddaughter's safety? We knew Sarah would come get her. You blocked her phone number. She would figure it out. Jennifer's testimony was the worst. She sat there, calm and collected, and painted Sophie as a problem child. Sophie has always been challenging. She's not like Emma. Emma is independent and mature. Sophie needs constant attention. We tried to accommodate her, but she was impossible that day. Miss Mitchell, you're a mother yourself. Would you leave your daughter alone in an airport? Emma would never put us in that situation. That's not what I asked. No, I wouldn't. But Sophie isn't my daughter. And that makes it acceptable? Jennifer looked right at the jury. We made a mistake. But Sarah is blowing this out of proportion. She's always been dramatic. She's using Sophie to get attention and to punish us. The jury deliberated for 47 minutes. Guilty on all counts. My mother let out a wail. My father sat stone-faced. Jennifer started crying, real tears this time. The sentencing came 2 weeks later. Judge Thompson looked down at my parents and sister with something close to disgust. In my 30 years on the bench, I have rarely seen such callous disregard for a child's welfare. You abandoned a 7-year-old girl in an airport, a child with a medical condition, a child who trusted you, and when confronted with your actions, you showed no remorse. You blamed the child. You blamed the mother. You took no responsibility. She sentenced them each. My mother and father, 2 years probation, $10,000 in fines each, 200 hours of community service at Seattle Children's Hospital. The irony wasn't lost on me, and court-mandated parenting classes. Jennifer got 1 year probation and a $5,000 fine. All 3 were ordered to repay me the $4,500. And then the final part, a 5-year restraining order, extended from the original. They couldn't contact Sophie until she turned 18, and only then if Sophie herself chose to allow it. This child has suffered enough, Judge Thompson said. She deserves to grow up without the toxic influence of people who view her as less than. Case closed. We walked out of that courtroom into the Seattle sunshine. Sophie held my hand tight. Is it over, Mama? It's over, baby. Are they going to be arrested? No, but they have to do community service and pay a fine, and they can't contact us. Good. Sophie's voice was firm. I don't want to see them anyway. We went for ice cream. Just the 2 of us. And for the first time in weeks, Sophie smiled a real smile. The aftermath wasn't easy. Word got out in our extended family. I was vilified, called vindictive, cruel, heartless. How could I send my own parents to court? How could I keep them from their granddaughter? I stopped trying to explain. The people who mattered understood. The people who didn't weren't worth my energy. Sophie continued therapy with Dr. Williams. Slowly, gradually, she started to heal. The nightmares became less frequent. She stopped wetting the bed. She became more confident, more sure of herself. 3 years passed. Sophie is 10 now. She's thriving. She's in art therapy class once a week, and her drawings have gone from dark and scared to bright and hopeful. She wants to be a veterinarian. She has friends. She laughs. She's become the child she was always meant to be, without the weight of my family's cruelty on her shoulders. I got promoted to senior charge nurse. I started dating someone, a kind man named Marcus, who treats Sophie like she hung the moon. We took a trip to Disneyland last month. Just the 3 of us. Sophie rode every ride, ate too much cotton candy, and fell asleep on Marcus's shoulders during the fireworks. This is the best trip ever, she whispered before she fell asleep. Better than Alaska would have been. Yeah, baby. It is. My parents completed their probation. I heard through Uncle David that they'd been asked to step down from leadership roles at their church when word got out about what they'd done, that their friend circle shrank, that the community service at the children's hospital was humiliating for them. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not sadness. Just nothing. I haven't heard from them directly. The restraining order holds. Jennifer sent 1 letter through a lawyer, asking if we could move past this for Emma's sake. I didn't respond. And then, 3 weeks ago, something happened. I was at the grocery store with Sophie after school. We were in the produce section, debating between green grapes and red, when I heard a familiar voice. Sarah? I turned. Jennifer was standing there, looking older than I remembered. Emma was with her, almost 12 now, looking uncomfortable. Sophie immediately moved behind me, her hand gripping my shirt. "Hi, Jennifer." My voice was flat. "Wow, hi. I can't believe I ran into you." She was using that bright fake voice that meant she wanted something. "You look great. And Sophie, you've gotten so big." Sophie didn't respond. Jennifer's eyes darted to my shopping cart. I'd just bought Sophie new school clothes, and you could see the bags. Nothing fancy, but nice. And parked outside was my new car, nothing extravagant, but reliable and safe. I'd saved up for it over the past year. "You seem like you're doing well," Jennifer said. Her tone had changed. There was something calculating in her eyes. "We're fine." "That's good. That's really good." She paused. "Look, I know things have been difficult. But Mom and Dad really miss Sophie. And I miss you. We're family, Sarah. Don't you think it's time we moved past all this?" Sophie's grip on my shirt tightened. "No," I said simply. "But it's been 3 years." "Surely. Jennifer, you left my daughter alone in an airport. You traumatized her. You showed no remorse. The only reason you want to move past this now is because you see that we're doing well and you want back in? The answer is no. That's not fair. We made a mistake. You made a choice. There's a difference. And the consequences of that choice are permanent. We're not interested in reconnecting. So you're just going to keep Sophie from her family forever? That's so selfish." I felt Sophie trembling behind me. I put my hand back and squeezed her shoulder. "No, Jennifer. I'm going to keep her from people who hurt her. There's a difference. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have shopping to finish." "Sarah, please. At least think about it. For Sophie's sake." I looked at her. Really looked at her. And I saw it clearly for the first time. She didn't care about Sophie. She cared about what reconnecting with us represented. She cared about the optics, about not being the bad guy in the story, about maybe having access to whatever success she thought we'd achieved. "Sophie," I said, not breaking eye contact with Jennifer, "do you want a relationship with your grandmother, grandfather, and aunt?" "No, Mama." Sophie's voice was small but certain. "I don't." "There's your answer, Jennifer. Goodbye." I took Sophie's hand, and we walked away. I could feel Jennifer staring after us, but I didn't look back. In the car, Sophie was quiet for a few minutes. Then she said, "Mama, did I do the right thing?" "Baby, you did exactly the right thing. You protected yourself. You chose your own peace. That's always the right thing. I don't feel bad." "Good, you shouldn't." "I love you, Mama. I love you too, Sophie. So much. Always." That night, after I tucked Sophie into bed, I sat on my back porch with a cup of tea and thought about everything that had happened. About the girl I used to be, desperate for my parents' approval. About the woman I'd become, fierce and protective and free. People ask me sometimes if I have regrets. If I wish I'd handled things differently. If I think about reconciling now that time has passed. The answer is no. I don't regret protecting my daughter. I don't regret cutting off toxic people, even when those people are family. I don't regret standing up and saying enough is enough. Sophie is flourishing. She's happy. She's secure. She knows she's loved unconditionally. And that's worth more than any relationship with people who couldn't see her value. Blood doesn't make you family. Love does. Respect does. Showing up does. My parents and sister showed me who they were on June 15th when they abandoned my 7-year-old daughter at an airport and felt justified doing it. I believed them. And I acted accordingly. I have no regrets. We built a new life, Sophie and me. A life without walking on eggshells, without begging for scraps of affection, without watching my daughter's face fall when she realizes once again that she's not the chosen one. And in this new life, Sophie is chosen. Every single day. She's chosen and loved and celebrated exactly as she is. That's what family should be. That's what we are. And we're never looking back,